Hello and welcome to video number 3 of how to reef aquarium maintenance, and as promised today we're going to discuss weekly maintenance that I do to this system to ensure that it's working as need be. Now this in itself is probably one of the most difficult subjects that I've had to cover when it comes to reef aquariums, and that is simply due to the fact that no one system is the same. I mean, let me say this. Let me get this out the way, clear bang, and explain this to you guys a little bit so you can understand where I'm coming from. There is no right or wrong way for you to set up a reef. Let me explain that right off the bat. I mean, you can actually go ahead and take some live rock and some sand and hang on the back power filter and start your reef like that. You know, the problem with this type of setup is that it is, you know, it's not that there is no right or wrong way for you to set up a reef. It's that there is a better way for you to set up a reef. And if you go with the hang on the back power filter, for example, you're going to be lacking so much that you can do when instead running a protein skimmer, for example, which is going to be removing it instead of trapping the waste in the power filter, resulting in decomposing matter continuously releasing nitrates back into your water. Nitrates being a #1 enemy of corals, you know, along with phosphates and the such. But every system is different, and whether you set it up with a canister filter, a wet dry trickle filter, hang on the back power filter, don't run a protein skimmer, don't use deep sand beds, do not use a refugium. Every system is different and will require you to perform different types of maintenance. And this is a subject that we could sit here and talk about it for days on end and never come to a conclusion. I mean, there are some general recommendations, one of which is to perform water changes. This is a subject that's very touchy for me as well, because in my case, I don't perform water changes on this 90-gallon system. It's been more than 8 months, no water changes have been performed. But I do recommend for you to do water changes, at least until you get 2 things down pat. Number 1, your system is set up similar to this one, where it has a deep sand bed, large protein skimmer, all of the such. You know, the use of miracle mud and everything else. Number 2, if you need to absolutely make sure that you have a good understanding of the chemistry of seawater. So if something goes wrong, you can detect it with your eye and resolve it without having to do water changes, which is what I do. I've been in this hobby for a little over 8 years. And throughout the years, I started my first saltwater aquarium with a hang on the back power filter, eventually moved on to a canister filter, and each and every time I upgraded the system, I thought I had the absolute best. In this case here, with what you're looking at today, this is the absolute best way for you to set up a reef. It's not that there's a right or wrong way here, it's that there is a better way, and this is it, guys. So shortly, what we're gonna do here, because this whole subject you know, is different for everyone. For those of you who have a different type of setup, you can write in the description box a brief description of your system, you know, whether you have a hang on the back power filter and the such or whatever, and I'll give you a brief recommendation. The first thing you're gonna hear coming out of my mouth is perform water changes. On a weekly basis, 5% to 10% of a water change will do. Bi-weekly also, if you want to skip weekly and prolong it to bi-weekly, you can make 20% water changes. But in this particular case, and because the #1 question on my channel and in private messages is how is it that I keep it so clean, I'm just going to cover what I do to this particular reef. Number 1, cleaning the front and sides of the glass. I covered that in video number 1. Number 2 and 3, we're going to discuss as we edit the video here. We're going to move down to the centrifugium, and I'm going to show you guys how simple it is to maintain this type of setup if you set it up in this manner. Now briefly here, before we move down to the centrifugium, I really wanted to show you guys that I did get a new elegance coral. The other one unfortunately did not make it after the blackout, and you can see it here. I'm going to try to zoom in so you can take a look at it. There it is. It's actually doing quite well. I just fed the system, so he's a little retracted. Maybe in video number 4, I'm going to show a little bit more. I also have new additions to the tank. There's a yellow tang, and you can see him out here. He's a nice little baby, very healthy. And I have a flame angel that is actually quite shy, and a royal grama. Now, one of the questions that I've received recently have a lot to do with the acclimation process and the addition of these fish. And I just thought that I would mention this quickly before we move on to the maintenance videos. Now, one of the most common questions that get asked when it comes to the addition of fish is, why is it that some of these fish always hide continuously, you know, behind the rocks when you approach the system? This is absolutely normal, guys. It's a part of the acclimation process, and eventually in time, as you steady the water parameters and the fish begin to realize that you coming over to your reef and feeding the reef is going to mean you know, treats and food for them, they're gonna be jumping up for joy coming to the front of the tank. For the time being, there are new additions. You can see, oh, here's the let me see if I can capture the flame angel swimming around back there. Ah, there's a little bit of him there. You can see him, he's very beautiful. So we're gonna edit the video here, guys, and we're gonna move on to the maintenance part, which is done down below. So stay tuned, be right back. Okay, so we are back with the bottom area, the heart of the reef, which is the filtration system. This is my sump refugium, and for those who have questions about it, I do cover a detailed video review on this particular sump refugium, the skimmer, the light. Everything that you see here is discussed in detail on the build process. But when it comes to the weekly maintenance for me, there's only two things that I do, you know, and that's it. There's no water changes, no nothing. Number one, if we look here at the last stage, you're gonna see a black Aqua Clear 50 pump, right? Now this pump, I basically positioned it in this last stage to keep the water moving, to keep the water non-stagnant in this area. Very important. Reefs, everything about reefs is all about water movement. And if you have a particular area in your tank or in your refugium that there's not much water movement, it can you know, develop a certain type of scum, which is proteins that are not removed by the protein skimmer, and so they you know, they settle in that area. So I absolutely ensure that I keep this pump in this last stage. But where the maintenance part comes of it, on a weekly basis, I take this little black pump and I swish it around and move it over to the first stage. Now in the first stage here, you're gonna see some detritus buildup. Let me see if I can back it up a little bit, the camera, so you guys can see it. That right there on that first stage is basically detritus buildup, and it's preventing the live rock that you see positioned behind it is preventing the water movement from keeping that debris suspended. So all I do is take this little black pump, once again, that you see sitting right next to the Mag Drive 18, and just blast this little area down here to keep the detritus suspended. It's that simple. And you know, basically the detritus, what it does is that it moves over to the deep sandbed area here with miracle mud and is basically consumed and recycled back into the system. It will not happen if you have a bare bottom area as you see here. Has to be with the deep sandbed, which contains the critters that live within it, you know, larger amphipods consuming the detritus, pooing it, and then you have more microscopic critters that live within the deep sandbed and consume the detritus and recycle it back into the system. So that's basically number one that I do here. Number two, very, very simple. I take this foam pad here and I rinse it out in fresh water. Now this is a very common question here. Should I use fresh water? Should I use reef water? I basically rinse it out in very warm, hot, you know, tap water, and squeeze out the tap water before I insert it back in. You know, and this is to ensure that some of the bacteria that lives in this foam, you know, is basically killed, so it won't produce more nitrates, because what that area is basically the same as if you had a hang on the back power filter with a foam pad on it. It's basically going to be a detritus trap and, you know, cause more nitrates than need be. I want the bacteria to stay on the live rock, to work and live on the live rock, not necessarily on this sponge. I just keep the sponge there, you know, simply to trap bigger matter from making it into the last stage and clogging up my pumps. So that is it, guys. When it comes to weekly maintenance, if you set up your system in this manner, that's all you have to do. You know, keep the detritus suspended, clean the foam pad, clean the front and sides of the glass, no water changes, none of the such. This is very, very easy to do when it comes to this type of maintenance. Now, video number 4 here is going to be not necessarily the most important maintenance, because this is what we covered in this video, but video number 4 is going to be the most difficult maintenance to do, which is going to be maintenance that needs to be done to your the chiller every 6 months, the cleaning of your pumps, removal of carbonate, of calcium carbonate, encrusted type of algae from certain areas. We're going to be covering all of that. Cleaning the overflow box, which you can see here, and I'm going to show you guys quickly that the overflow box down below, I'm not sure if you're going to be able to see it. Let me try to see if I can capture this for you guys. But the bottom of the overflow box, another thing that I wanted to show you guys quickly is that you can see the deep sand bed. Not too sure if you can see it, but it is completely clear and clean. This is very important when you use the proper grain size, to set up your deep sand bed. It's always going to be clean down below. But in the overflow box, I'm not sure if you can capture that, but some detritus does settle there. And I did make a video about this, a few months back. You might want to take a look at that. I think it's called Must Do Reef Aquarium Maintenance. Every 6 months you should clean out the overflow box. So we're going to cover all of that in the next video. Hope you guys have enjoyed this particular video. Briefly, I wanted to mention that today is September 11, the 10th anniversary of the Twin Towers, and my heart goes out to all the family members, who lost individuals, that were in the tower. I really do pray for you, and of course I remember you guys. And today is the 10-year anniversary, so it's very important. Give my video a thumbs up, guys. Spread the word for my Reef Aquarium videos and stuff like that. I want to make sure everyone out there knows about this particular channel, and that, there's educational videos. And stay tuned. As always, New York Steelo will post another video soon. So with that said, this is New York Steelo signing out. Peace.